Well, hello neighbors. I'm John, your whiskey neighbor. Welcome to Whiskey Wednesday, and I thought I would review a bottle that I've had the pleasure of opening up and tasting over the Christmas break, and that would be Bulleit Bourbon, but this is the one with the age stamp. So this is Bulleit Bourbon, their 10-year-old edition. Well, thanks for staying with me through the break. I had to do the dramatic reveal from the bag because this one came on sale and with a pretty interesting little burlap Bulleit bourbon bag. So I thought that was fun. Yeah, so I wanted to share a few thoughts about Bulleit. Certainly one of the most popular bourbons out there right now. This is the one, though, that carries the 10-year-old age stamp. It's bottled at 45.6%. It is a straight bourbon. So, well, this one has an age stamp of 10. I was about to say, so it's a minimum of 4 years, but actually this one has an age stamp. So we know that the youngest bourbon used in here would be 10 years old. Not a lot in here. And Bulleit history, this still, because it's 2019 now, definitely still sourced for them. This is not from their own distillery. Yes, they have one, but certainly they wouldn't have anything. I don't even think, when did it go in? I'll have to look it up. Maybe I can put it down below in a line. But Bulleit became popular sourcing whiskey. And the consensus out there is that the sourced whiskey comes from Four Roses. So that's an excellent distillery. It puts out a lot of great bourbon. And that's behind Bulleit. And Bulleit is known for its upfront presentation and kind of brash nature and fairly high rye. As we look at this expression here, as I understand it, it's the same mash bill. It really is the same as the entrance level Bulleit. So that's going to be, I think it's just under 70 corn, 68 I'm going to say. And I think the rye, I know is in the 20s. I think it's as high as 28% rye and the balance in malted barley. So definitely a rye heavy bourbon, which if you follow the channel at all, you know that rye gets me going. And by that, I just mean, I don't know, I had an interesting journey being Canadian. You know that a lot of our whiskey is rye whiskey. Some of our whiskey shamefully is labeled rye whiskey and not rye whiskey. That aside, certainly there's a lot of good rye available in Canada. And so I've had a full journey where there was a time in my life when I didn't like rye, and now I really do. Back to Bulleit. Bulleit Bourbon, 10-year-old. I do believe this is from Four Roses, sourced from them. And we'll give it a nose and a taste and tell you what I think. Nose arrives. A lot of typical bourbon notes, right? You've got caramel, a candy fruit like a red apple or a cherry. For me, more cherry. Some spice, not amazingly spicy. Like the spice here is a little on that cinnamon edge, not on that really deep baking spices, but it's there. It doesn't take too long, you know, when I'm leaning in and kind of going around for the alcohol to come up. So even though it's 10 years, the alcohol is still certainly around and certainly even comes up in the nose. There's an edge of sourness to it, just a little bit of tightening of my eyes a little bit when I'm smelling something a bit sour. Nothing unusual and nothing strongly one way or another. It does smell strong, like a strong bourbon. You know, it's probably going to be a significant whiskey. But there's some fruit in there, and definitely some toffee, maybe vanilla. I'd expect more vanilla. Oh, well, it's there too. Let's give it a taste. So first sip for me, again, a little sweet up front, but not overly, not cryingly sweet. So yeah, if I'm just washing over the tongue, and it really is a first sip of whiskey, and I should have had a pre-sip just to get my tongue adjusted. Let me have another quick sip. Yeah, that was, much more informative. So there now the palate runs the gamut. So a little sweetness, a little bit of vanilla, a little caramel, but definitely some fruit, but not a lot. I keep mentioning that, but it's just not that heavy. And very quickly into oak, very quickly into a bit of rye spice. The rye spice comes back very quick on the early finish. So it's either at the end of the palate or the beginning of after your swallow. For me, the sides of my tongue or the edges of my mouth really do pick up, which I often get from rye. I know Dr. Don Livermore spent quite a bit of time once on the whiskey topic with Mark Baylock. Oh, sorry, Mark. Talking about how you can treat rye differently and you don't get that edge. But a lot of American rye definitely has that. So up front, that bourbon, sweetness, toffee, caramel, fruit, not heavy, but on that red or that darker fruit edge. And then, but very quickly the finish is reasonably spicy, is reasonably oaky, is full of cinnamon, some baking spices. It also feels just not burnt, that would be too black, and I like black char. It's not that it's char, but it does come back a little rough very quickly. The longer finish fades into just sweet cinnamon hearts, cinnamon gum, that kind of thing, where you're left with just sort of sugar and cinnamon, and your tongue's a little bit rough. So, and now the nose is getting better. And that can happen. I should have, usually before I shot, I often have just a quick sip of something a little neutral, but whiskey, just to sort of kind of work out my palate a little bit. Because now, when I pick up the glass, I've had a couple of sips, and now I'm really getting candied fruit, candied cherry, maraschino cherry, cherry tart. So, I'm getting more in the nose. Up front, it was pretty constrained, but now I think it's because, your palate's adjusting and maybe some of that nose is already present in the mouth, right? Because I've had some whiskey. Palate stays pretty similar. So, what do I think about this one? Well, it's a tough call. I happen to like the rye part of Bulleit, and I even like just the basic entrance Bulleit. And I know it's really designed to be more of a mixer or a quick shot. Oh, there's some whiskey. So I know it's not that slow down and sip it kind of whiskey, but I'm okay with bold and brash and spicy. And so I even like the regular Bulleit. And this is better than the regular Bulleit. Absolutely. It is just a little more refined. There's a little more vanillas, a little more depth across the palate in it, but not exceedingly so. And so I've heard that in some markets, this is priced like twice as much as Bulleit. And for me, for my money, because I'm pretty budget conscious, I probably wouldn't, well, I know I wouldn't. If I could get Bulleit for 20, I wouldn't spend 40 on this. And I hear that's kind of what it is in most of the States. Up here, it's very different. Bulleit, unless I get on sale, and I really hold out for sales. I've got a lot of whiskey in the cabinet. But it sits around, 35. And this sits around 45 to 47, but somewhere in there. It's really like 10 to 12 bucks more. And for 10 to 12 bucks, it's a better bourbon. It's a better experience. You can sip this one neat and feel pretty good about it, right? It's still brash. It's still alcohol forward. And there's something aggressive about the end of the palate or the early finish that does leave me a little, it's not the best. So I'm not going to run back to fill this up unless it comes on sale, as I got this one, or some other reason, because I like it and I like the flavors, but it's not amazing. And at 45 bucks, it's in a pretty competitive range. What I don't have with me right now, and I was bragging like 6 months ago, oh, I know a store that has a shelf full of Elijah Craig 12-year-old. It's true, and I sent a picture to a friend, and I think that friend went out and bought it all because now I can't find any Elijah Craig 12-year-old. But that's priced the same. And for me, the Elijah Craig, the 12-year-old, is head and shoulders above this. Like, I would so much reach for that than this one. Oh, star rating. You know, it's tough to get off about 3.5, which I think is probably what I gave Bulleit. But it just is too brash to go much beyond that. 3.5. So Elijah Craig, I'd buy in a heartbeat. Oh, I didn't have any, but I thought, well, 10-year-old and priced almost the same is Russell's, right? Russell's Reserve, 10-year-old, bottled at 45. I often think of Russell's because the way it's put together is high rye, but I know it's about half. It's somewhere around 13% rye versus 28. But I thought, well, I'll pour a little bit, mostly because it's nice to sample against something. So this nose, now this is a bit of the Wild Turkey nose. And I know Wild Turkey has great fans because every time I talk about Wild Turkey, I get a few comments. Nothing negative. You guys are great, but people love their Wild Turkey, and that's good. I definitely get a sour note from Wild Turkey, less so in Russell's, but still there in Russell's. Now, for some reason, I cannot explain, I hardly get it in Rare Breed, so I really like Rare Breed. But in Russell's, it's almost the first thing I smell. As that fades, I can get into a little more candy, a little more caramel, but that sour comes back. Now, certainly the alcohol, better constrained in the Russell's 10. Give it a sip. A little bit of a cleaner drink. By that, I mean, it feels a little more refreshing, a little fruitier, but I can't identify the fruit with this one. Oh, a little bit of nut there. Little bit of, it's not heavy nut, but a little bit of almost that hint at peanut or hint at coconut, something like that, where you get a little bit of that in there. Yeah. So I'm not a big fan of Russell's, but in this case, if I was recommending blind, which I usually have through YouTube, I would probably say this would be a better bet, and they're priced just almost the same for more bourbon drinkers. It's just a little better refined. It's still, I find, an aggressive bourbon. The Elijah Craig for me is smoother, is fruitier, is more caramel. Like, I don't know, it's just more. Oh, I got to get a bottle of that. But recommending bright. Oh, and there's some peppery spices, some pick up on your tongue spices at the end, and I like that. So in this comparison, I'm kind of leaning towards Russell's, which surprises me because I kind of like Bulleit. But in this head-to-head, this one just is a little fumey, a little alcohol. And there's some of the fruit from rice coming out. I don't know. This video is about this guy here. Not a bad buy. If in your market it's just a little bit more than the regular Bulleit and you like Bulleit, a total recommend. If you don't like Bulleit, don't spend more money on this because this is Bulleit. If you're just going, hey, I'm looking for a 10-year-old bourbon, if you can get the 12-year-old Elijah Craig and it's in the same price, please go try it. If not, this Russell's, it's good. I like it. It's got something in it that just, I don't know why I pick it up. There's a little sour, but it's got, a good depth of flavor and actually picks up on the tongue with some nice spices, and I like that. Hey guys, John, your whiskey neighbor here. Thanks for joining me on this Whiskey Wednesday. It's been a great holiday for me. I'm back at work, but it's just nice to connect with you guys. Hope you've got something nice to pour and having a great evening. Staying warm in this winter night. Take care.